So, in my earlier video, my first one that I posted, I kind of briefly talked about or hinted towards what I did before I came here. I was an elementary teacher since December of 2018. It was a short period, but it felt like it was home for me at that time. I've had experience with education way before 2018. But I also worked for the Department of Children and Families of Florida, and I did that for over 5 years in Palm Beach County. So I've worked with youth most of my life in just different capacities. But I was teaching right before I came here, and I miss my kids like tremendously. I missed the atmosphere. My coworkers were amazing, amazing people. We became actual family. Um, the administrative staff of the school that I worked for, they were great as well. There's no perfect school, there's no perfect company in a sense, but when you feel that you're valued, you miss it when you have to leave it. And I did feel valued. There was just so much that the school could do. And yes, I left due to COVID. Um, I deal with asthma and bronchitis myself, and I've had it my entire life. And I have a mother who has some serious health issues, and I have a sister in the same condition. So I worked from home when everything shut down in 2020 as long as I could, and I ended up going back into the school. Was ready for the new year. Decorated my classroom, it was the bomb. I loved it. It was beautiful. I wanted to set an atmosphere that felt comfortable for my kids, to where they felt safe after being away from the school for so long. For some of them, just wanted them to have a different experience. And so I poured a lot of sweat and some tears into the classroom, and everything started off great. The school was operating as best as it could, with making sure that we were safe. We had air purifiers placed in our classrooms. We had the wipes for days, Lysol for days. My sister works at a school. She gave me tons of, Lysol wipes and boxes of different things just to stay safe. We were masked, and hand sanitizer galore to start. But, something about those germs is, it's kind of inevitable. And, it became a little scary and nerve-wracking after a while. You got to the point where the schools were doing all that they could, but then you have the political side of it, where higher ups make the decisions and schools have to follow. And unfortunately, we had to stay and remain in the classrooms while our students were rotating. It seemed, a lot of them would get sick, so then they would have to quarantine for 9 to 10 days or whatever the requirement was at the time. And so now they're falling behind. And you're teaching to a class, starting with a class of 18, which was a blessing, because sometimes we were at a class of 20 and 27 students in one room. And so there's just no way to really socially distance, and especially when we were in the thick of it, to make sure that everyone was safe. But I had high hopes. I was there, and it got to the point where kids were getting, more kids were coming in and more kids were leaving, and I was teaching to maybe 8 some days, and then the next couple of weeks it would probably be 12, and then I would have a full class, and then 2 more days I would have several out. And because they were sitting next to certain kids, those kids had to quarantine just in case they were exposed in some kind of way. And it kind of started hitting a little close to home, where I felt I needed to kind of take a step back from it all. It was a very, very, very hard decision for me to walk away. But I had my mom and my sister and my family and myself to think about, as did so many other teachers that was out there. Kudos to all of my educators, because the job must continue. It's a job that has to be done. And without our educators, our future is very, very bleak. So I tip my hat off to the medical professionals that are out there as well, that's working day in and day out without rest, and our teachers who are working day in and day out without rest, trying to find new ways to introduce school and keep our children socially engaged, and providing mental stability, because it does weigh on them. It weighs on everybody, and we're just in that state of emergency right now, I feel. But after resigning and walking away, I was kind of left with, now what? Do I get a work from home job? I can be at home. I'll be safe in the comfort of my own home. I don't have to worry about, bringing or exposing my family to anything. And so I started that after a while. And one day my mind went to a friend of mine. I don't even know how it came up, or trucking, maybe I saw something on television or something, and it kind of jarred my memory and made me say, let me call Vashti and see. And from that conversation with speaking with her, she's been doing it 5.5 or 6 years or more, or something like that. And she was like, you absolutely can do this. And that's where the seed got planted. And I started to research, and I started looking up things, and I started to print things and study right away, air brake test. And, she told me exactly what I needed. And she said, you're going to want to go to Prime. She said, there is no other company like Prime. By this time, I had researched and I've seen so many other different companies. And she just kept reiterating. She said, it's nothing like Prime. And I guess at the time that she came, it was $700 a week. And she talked about, how there were so many women that were out here doing this, and how the terminals were. We talked a couple of different times, and she just kept that thing going. And motivation really started to grow within me. Like, okay, I'm afraid of heights. I don't fly much. I don't fly at all anymore. I know some people are going to find that funny, but yeah, flying is something that I have not been able to really grasp and get over. And my last experience of flying was not great, and that was in 2017. So but I do enjoy driving. My aunt has this thing with, road trip. We can be going, 20, not 20, but like 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours away. It's a road trip. We enjoy traveling as a family, singing and listening to music. So I was like, why not? Let me look into it. And so I started digging. I was researching. I was looking up different things. I read all that I could read about it. Again, I told you before, I stumbled upon the pre-trip because I saw in a lot of other different videos that wherever you're going to take your test in, learn how they do their pre-trip, so that you will be fully prepared to pass in that state. And then you will go back, of course, and get your actual CDL from your home state. So there was so much information that was out there. And I started following people's YouTube videos. And this was just my experience. Out of a lot of the different YouTube followers and different people who went with Prime, I didn't see any videos that were disparaging, people talking down about the company, or certain people that they had met. I didn't see that. And I've watched tons of videos. I've subscribed to a bunch of people in trucking. I looked at, people who were sharing their paychecks and showing, what they got and smiling faces. Did they talk about, some of the hardships of kind of learning the business? Yeah. But as far as the company, I didn't get that from their videos. And I'm here now experiencing just the first few weeks of Prime, moving out from the Oasis, and, kind of lugging all of my stuff to get where I needed to be. Yeah, it's muscle work. You kind of get tired and, whatever, but that's a part of the job. If you're not going to sleep on your truck and you just want a good night's rest, you got to find somewhere to park your truck and get into a hotel room. They may not always be the best of hotels unless that's just where you're going. And if the area doesn't have the best hotels, you're going to find some place to sleep, or you're going to sleep on your truck. So I'm pretty much just rolling with everything that's coming because I have a greater goal in mind. And that was one of the things that Ms. D talked about during our first official week of training at the Millennium Building, or the Pavilion Building, not at the Millennium, I'm sorry, the Pavilion or the Pad. When we met with her, she said, she asked us, what's your why? How big is it? Is it big enough to keep you here? And she was honest. You're going to meet some people who are just not that friendly. That's just the world that we live in. Everybody is not going to have a smile on their face, and everyone is not going to treat you the way you're going to treat certain people. But what she said was you have to make it what you're going to make it. It's what you put into it. How much are you willing to put in it? And coming here and your experiences with Prime, that's up to you. It's what you make out of it that's going to keep you or not keep you. What are you going to do with what you're provided with? And so my why is bigger than, a change in a hotel room. I spent 12 days there. It was lovely. It was great. And again, this place is not that bad, at all. I'm sleeping pretty good. I've gotten some things that I've purchased for myself to make sure that I'm just not buying every day, but I'm here. I'm learning. I'm learning more about this truck that I've learned about my own car. But best believe once I get in my car, I'm going to be checking these gauges. I'm going to be making sure that my belts are, properly mounted and secured and all of these things. And there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. There's not going to be anything leaking. I know what to look for on my actual car now. Not that I didn't really know, but I know a whole lot more now. So why Prime? Why am I here? Life, kind of routed me this way. Life happens, and seasons change, and so do careers and circumstances. But I have a huge why. I love my family to death. I'm out here to explore, to see different parts of the USA that I probably would never see because I'm not getting on a plane, but I'll be able to see over the road, and I'll be able to provide for myself and my family. That's why I'm here. COVID had a certain way of doing some things, and it caused me and some other people that I have met, they left nursing. There's some people who left, other trucking companies, or left, big business. We've met several people who have PhDs in engineering and all of these other things. They're working here at Prime. So that's why I'm here. And I'm hoping that you have a big enough why to find or figure out which way you're going to go. If you're thinking about just doing a different career change, it doesn't have to be trucking. Just determine your why. And is your why big enough to keep you on the track that you want to go, to make your life better than the way it was prior? How big is your why? And why are you coming to Prime if you are coming to Prime? Do you have what it takes to stick with it? I hope you do, and I hope to meet you. Thank you again for listening. Appreciate you. Peace.